Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fertility TV. I'm Dr. Marc Sklar, the fertility expert, and many of you probably already know me. But today we are talking with Justin from Kettle Fire. And before we get into the meat of our interview, I think if you've watched any of my videos, read any of my blogs, and know anything about me, I'm a big, huge fan of bone broth. I talk about it often. And so that should be nothing new for all of you. It's a standard recommendation in my treatment plans for my patients. And so today I thought it'd be awesome to bring Justin on to talk a little bit about bone broth, introduce all of you into kind of why he got into it, what makes Kettle Fire unique, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that. So Justin, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it.
I'm fine.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So, why don't we just start right there? Why don't we let everybody who's watching learn a little bit about kind of why you got into the food industry or specifically, bone broth for that matter, and why it's important for you.
Sure. So I used to be in the tech world. And so I had a company that was doing software for software developers. And basically I came out of that experience and was like, man, I just could care less about selling this product to our software developers. And so at that point I was looking and decided that I wanted to do something I actually care about. For me, that was health and wellness. And so as I started getting into that, looking at opportunities, whatever, I had a bunch of friends that were suggesting I incorporate this thing called bone broth into my diet. This was three and a half years ago, and I'd never heard of it at that time. And so looked at it, tried to make it once, total disaster. It was awful. And so at that point, I kind of tabled the idea until my brother, who is my co-founder, he tore his ACL and MCL while playing soccer and was bedridden after surgery for like 7 weeks. And
Okay.
so he was like, Justin, do you know anything that can help with recovery? I sent him some bone broth stuff and he was like, there's nowhere that I can buy it. And that's when we kind of decided maybe there's a business opportunity here, like to make a quality, super, super convenient bone broth that we could just drink and, I wouldn't have to cook every time. And so that was kind of the moment that we decided to do what eventually became Kettle Fire.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So, you probably don't know, and some of my viewers probably do know, but I have a long-standing history of digestive issues. I mean, it's actually how I got into natural health care. And from a young age, I've had every itis that went after anything related to my digestive system you could think of. And as college kids tend to do, we get a little carried away with our fun sometimes. And I did, and ended up in the hospital and wasn't doing so well. And
wow.
That's kind of what pushed me down the path for natural health care and really trying to take care of my body better. Growing up in a Jewish household, chicken soup was a staple. Sometimes with matzo balls, sometimes without. Although now I opt for without. The chicken soup, I didn't, I always knew it was Jewish penicillin, didn't think much of it. And then when I really started to take care of my health, that really became a big staple of my diet.
Sure.
This day with my kids or anyone starting to getting run down, my wife calls me. I'm like, just, open up a thing of bone broth or cook a batch depending on how we're feeling. And these days we usually order it instead of cooking for some of the same reasons you've had in your previous experience. So, those have been my experiences, and it's really helped me tremendously. It's really soothing, really kind of calms and settles my stomach down, really nice for the immune system. So kind of what makes Kettle Fire so unique? Because if you do a search online, you're going to find all sorts of bone broths this day and age.
Yeah, for sure. And so that is what exists today. When we started the company, that was not quite true.
Not there,
and so,
right?
Yeah. And so what we have, what still makes us unique. So today still, we are the only shelf stable, meaning that our product, without any additives or preservatives, just thanks to our packaging technology, will last for about a year and a half unopened.
That's awesome.
Once you pop it in your pantry, it won't go bad. You don't need to freeze it. You don't need to do any of that. And again, no additives, no preservatives to achieve that effect. And so we're still the only shelf-stable bone broth that uses 100 bones from 100% grass-fed, grass-finished cattle, all organic ingredients. In the case of our chickens, cage-free chickens, all organic, organically raised, and all organic ingredients. And so we have had our bone broth tested, and thanks to our ingredient quality and the long cook times, 20 plus hours in the case of beef, 10 plus in the case of chicken, we have found that our bone broth is the only one compared to all of the others that gels when you put it in the fridge, and that actually our stuff has 19 times more collagen than the closest competitor in our bone broth. And that is thanks to the bones breaking down. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, because it's becoming kind of a trend, what you're seeing is big food companies coming into it, and I would say doing it the wrong way. Like Pacific's coming in, they're using a bone paste, and the stuff just doesn't taste good.
Not the same.
Yeah, it's just not the same. And I think that this is a huge problem in our food system just in general is, big CPG company goes, ooh, trend, let's try and do that as cheaply as possible. And they ignore the entire reason that this thing became a trend, which is the nutritional benefits. And they just keep missing this over and over again. And so we're the only company that we see, and some of the other frozen guys are doing this as well, coming at the bone broth space in what we think is the right nutrition first way.
Yeah. All of that sounds tremendous. And for those of you listening, that's really why you want to be drinking bone broth. I mean, and the fact that you're getting all the health benefits. So it's interesting because, I've seen it at Costco, I've seen it at Sprouts and whatnot. You see all the Pacific or whoever else is trying to package it. Sprouts, I think, is doing their own labeling now and whatnot. But I've done a taste test. I've bought them. Right. And I've tried them and they're not the same. They just don't taste as good. And the key to it as well is if you turn over the back and you look at the ingredients, when you start seeing all the preservatives and all the different words, that's really what you're getting there. So you're looking for simple and straightforward. And that's why when you look at Kettle Fire, you can really trust it because you can get exactly what you're wanting to get. And just like you said, you get all these extra nutrients that you can't find, or more, I should say, more than you find in a lot of the other products around.
Yeah. And I mean, the second piece of that is you should see bones on the ingredient list. Like when you turn over a bone broth, you should see bones as one of the ingredients. And that's not the case with many of the other companies out there, which is just crazy to me. I mean, I could go on a long, big food tangent, but I'll spare you that right now.
Yeah. Well, look, I think actually some of that tangent is really important for the viewers, because what they need to understand is if the single most important thing, in my opinion, that we do for ourselves is how we feed our bodies on a daily basis, right? So if you're making the cheap choices, if you will, then in the long run, you're actually going to pay more for that later on when it comes to healthcare. That's what I've seen as a national trend. And if you're going to pay a little bit more now because you're going to get the right quality, the right nutrients to feed your body what it needs to nurture its cells and its body, then in the long run, you're actually saving yourself a lot of money and energy and, healthcare, heartache, and stress. And so that's really why, in my opinion, one of the reasons why I recommend bone broth and good quality bone broth like Kettle Fire. So for all of you listening, some of the key things that I like to point out with bone broth when it comes to fertility and reproductive health are, one is bone broth for me is a foundational thing. Like if I write a list of supplements or nutrients that I want my patients to have, that's one of those as a key nutrient or supplement, if you will, because it's synergistic. It's going to cause a nice synergy across the whole body. And it starts with your digestive system. If you can't have a healthy functioning digestive system, your hormones are not going to function properly overall. And they're also not going to take priority because your body's priority is going to be focused on its digestive system. Second, for all of you out there who have a lot of aches and pains, or, like your brother who had, what'd you say, knee surgery?
Knee surgery, yeah.
Knee surgery. There's an inflammatory response that's happening that needs to be quelled. And bone broth helps to do that. Along with, the collagen nurture, in your brother's case, bringing all those collagen back to the tendons, ligaments, and muscles. So it's going to help with that and overall bone health and development. So anti-inflammatory effect, especially when it comes to fertility, is really important, especially around the time of implantation for an embryo. And then for immunity, if you've got a compromised immune system, let's say you have some sort of autoimmune issue, one, that issue tends to start in the digestive system, and two, to start to repair the lining of the digestive system and to start to heal the gut and strengthen our immune system, bone broth is also a key nutrient that I use for my patients. And I see patients all the time, Hashimoto's disease, they have other immune factors that are causing miscarriages. And so it's a key element in terms of my recommendations to provide the proper nutrients to really feed all your cells and create a healthy body. So I know it's kind of like a long-winded explanation and whatnot for everybody watching, but I think it's important that you understand that bone broth can be used in all sorts of ways beyond just, hey, this is a nice drink and a nice trend that's going on. It's really a nutritional and health benefit across the board, and something that you want to have as some sort of a regular component to your diet and to your day. How often are you drinking bone broth?
So, I mean, I have unlimited supply, so so I do it every day.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I try to incorporate it generally a cup of it in the morning and occasionally another cup before I go to bed.
Yeah, my recommendation is usually 1 to 2 cups a day, which is ideal. And really the reason why I started recommending Kettle Fire to patients and to all my followers is exactly that, the shelf-stable process of it. I've got another one that I like that is frozen, but when I want that, it takes me time, right? I've got to defrost it. It's more than just a cup or two. And so the nice packaging, the small packaging, easy to pull out, tear, open, warm, and off you go. Add a little bit of seasoning if you like, and you're ready to go. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Completely. And I think really if you want anyone to change a habit, incorporate a new thing into their life or whatever, the easier you make it, the more likely it is that someone's going to make that a regular part of their lives.
Absolutely.
And that's why, we think the convenience bit is really important, and not just because, it's more convenient, but also because it means that people will be using this in their lives more frequently, which leads to better health outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. We have to make it easy for all of ourselves, and we have to start slowly. So if it's a new thing for you, pick up a couple different flavors so you can try the different ones, see how you like it. And then also, just start slow. Say, I'm just going to start it today, maybe 2 or 3 days from now, and then slowly start to integrate. And the goal is really to have a cup a day. Yep. So in this or below this video and on my blog post, we'll put links to Kettle Fire so you can check it out as well. Any last things that you want to mention, Justin?
Yeah, one thing that I think is interesting as I've gotten more into the bone broth space and have learned a lot more about ancestral ways of eating, paleo, ancestral diets. You mentioned like the Jewish upbringing, the matzo ball soup or the chicken noodle soup is a key part of your diet. One thing that I've seen is that even if you eat a relatively healthy diet today, what you're missing in our diets today compared to our ancestral diets is any sort of organ meat, bone broth, bone marrow, any of these, liver, kidney, whatever, any of these parts of the animal, they're basically non-existent in today's Western diet, even if you're eating pretty healthy. And so for me, what you're missing by not getting those foods, bone broth and all that stuff into your diet today is you're missing all of the amino acid profile, the rich nutrient profile of these things that just most people don't eat. And so that's another reason why I've made a conscious effort to incorporate more bone broth in my diet, because it's a great way to get those, and also to incorporate some organ meats, some kidney, liver, heart, all of that into my diet on a generally weekly basis.
It's huge. It's huge. Actually, I remember my grandfather sitting down, and when I would look at what he was eating, I was like, what are you eating? I was a little kid. I didn't understand. He's like, oh, this is great. And they ate almost every aspect, every part of the animal. I remember him like sucking on chicken feet, taking it out of the soup. I was like, what are you doing? Those are really key nutrients that we don't get anymore, or not in the same capacity and the same regularity that they used to. And those are key to support our overall health and cellular function. So absolutely, those are essential for what we need on a daily basis.
Completely. So that's at least how I've started to think about nutrition and wellness, and that's a big reason why. I mean, granted, I have a bone broth company, but it's also a reason why I've made an effort to incorporate more bone broth and more organ meats into my diet every single week.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm happy that they hear it from you, because I think they're tired of hearing it from me. So that's great. Well, Justin, I want to thank you for joining me today and for sharing all this awesome information. And for all of you watching, if you want any more information about bone broth or overall health, put a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. As you know, I'm not the best of answering my YouTube comments, but I am getting better. And then we'll also put a link to Kettle Fire here so you can check it out on your own. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to know about all my upcoming videos, tips, and tools, then sign up for my newsletter. It's where I share all my information for the coming week, all the things I love and want you to start to check out. So you can just do that at marksklar.com/newsletter. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel to find out when the latest YouTube video is coming out, which is typically weekly. So, all right, everyone. Justin, thanks so much. Until the next Fertility TV episode, I'll see you then.
Are you looking for a fertility coach? Are you looking for someone to guide you with your personal needs one-on-one? Well, that can be me. If you want more information on that, check it out right here.